Warning: the following video contains information about the murder and actions of a heinous and depraved individual. Viewer discretion is advised.
The poor boy was severely disabled and was forced to live upstairs on his own away from the rest of the family. When police found his body, they said he looked like a skeleton. He was 9 years old and he weighed 1 stone. Hello true crime fans, and welcome to Behind the Yellow Tape. Today we're diving into a case that is difficult to hear but important to remember. It's a story about the total collapse of a safety net and what happens when the people responsible for the most vulnerable among us simply stop. We're going back to 2014 to a home on Green Street in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. To the neighbours, the Tutko house was just another home in the city. There were 6 children living there, but inside the house was split into 2 different worlds. On the first floor, things appeared somewhat functional, but the second floor was a place of nightmares. That was where 9-year-old Jarrod Tutko Jr lived. Poor Jarrod was a boy who needed the world to be kind to him. He was born with Fragile X syndrome, a genetic condition that causes intellectual disability and behavioural challenges. He was also severely autistic and non-verbal. He couldn't ask for a glass of water. He couldn't tell anyone he was hurting. He relied entirely on his parents, Jarrod Sr and Kimberly, for survival. On the 1st of August 2014, Kimberly placed a call to 911. She told the dispatcher her son was dead. But when police arrived, they realised this wasn't a sudden medical emergency. The air in the house was thick with the smell of decay. They found poor Jarrod's body in an upstairs bedroom, and the scene was haunting. There was no bed, no toys. The room was smeared with waste, and the boy's body was so emaciated that he looked like a skeleton covered in skin. At 9 years old, Jarrod weighed just over 1 stone. As investigators peeled back the layers of the Tutko household, they found the chilling don't ask, don't tell policy between the parents. Jarrod Sr was reportedly the primary caregiver for the children upstairs, while Kimberly stayed downstairs. She later claimed in court that her husband was controlling and forbade her from going to the second floor. She told police she hadn't actually seen her son in several years, even though they slept under the same room every night. The medical examiner determined that Jarrod had been dead for several days before the 911 call was made. For nearly a week, his father had supposedly been going in and out of that room, seeing his son's lifeless body and then simply closing the door, going back downstairs to eat dinner with the rest of the family. The trial was a grim look into the depths of parental failure. Jarrod Tutko Sr was charged with first-degree murder. The prosecution didn't just call it neglect, they called it torture. They argued he intentionally starved his son to death. In 2015, he was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Kimberly also faced a jury. Her defence centred on being a victim of her husband's control, but the prosecution pointed out that she was a mother who lived feet away from her starving child. She was convicted of endangering the welfare of children and sentenced to just 6 to 12 years. This case broke the hearts of the Harrisburg community. It led to massive questions about why social services hadn't intervened and why a child with such high needs was allowed to vanish into the shadows of his own home. Jarrod's life was defined by silence, but his death became a loud, agonising cry for better protection with children with disabilities. Thank you for listening today, and remember, stay behind the yellow tape.